On behalf of the team with supporting and strengthening the home visiting workforce, we are happy to provide this informational video on the development and use of the Supervisor Practices in Reflective Supervision Home Visiting, or SuPRS-HV. Here's a brief overview of what we'll be covering in this informational video. First, we'll talk about the project background and active engagement process, then information about SuPRS-HV, suggested use of the measure in research and practice, and resources to guide use of the measure. Despite strong support for reflective supervision and home visiting, there's limited understanding of how it's practiced and limited evidence of its effectiveness. To fill this gap, we developed the SuPRS-HV for the home visiting context. The supervisor self-report measure is informed by practitioners' perspectives and will be used to strengthen the evidence for reflective supervision with promising secondary use for practice. Examples of what use for practice might look like are supervisors completing the measure to check in on the reflective supervision practices that they did or did not use in a session. Our aim was to develop a measure that is feasible, acceptable, and relevant across cultural contexts and across a range of home visiting models that require or recommend reflective supervision. The measure development included 3 phases. Each phase of measure development incorporated interested party engagement via ongoing collaboration with home visiting model representatives from diverse models, home visitors and supervisors, individuals who provide training on reflective supervision, and researchers and evaluators with expertise in reflective supervision. This time provides a snapshot of who was engaged when and the type of feedback that was collected. In the first phase, we determined key elements of reflective supervision and clarified definitions, then administered a concept mapping survey. We used knowledge gained from earlier project phases to make 3 key decisions about the type of measure to be developed. We decided the measure will assess a single supervision session, focus on specific behaviors and techniques, and be a self-report measure completed by the supervisor. The decision to assess a single supervision session and specific behaviors and techniques was made to minimize recall bias, offer the level of precision needed to capture variability and reflective supervisory practices, and promote evidence building by linking use of specific practices with anticipated outcomes. We chose to develop a supervisor self-report measure to ensure that the measure is feasible and practical to administer, and because supervisors' perspectives regarding specific practices are likely more accurate than home visitors, who may not be aware of the full range of practices a supervisor uses within a session. Additionally, reflective supervision training and professional development activities most commonly target supervisors. We then developed a large pool of items that aligned with elements identified in Phase 1. We tested items and response items through interpretation meetings with work groups and home visiting model representatives, conducted cognitive interviews, and administered a measure pretest survey. In the third phase, we conducted focus groups to explore relevance and cultural importance of items with a diverse group of supervisors identifying as Black, Hispanic, or Latine, or American, Indian, and Alaska Native. Results from these initial focus groups inform revisions of the measure prior to the large-scale developmental testing. We then conducted a large-scale test via a survey of 502 supervisors to assess item performance, factor structure, internal consistency, validity, reliability, feasibility, and acceptability. This was followed by repeated measures testing with a subgroup of supervisors who had completed the large-scale survey. Repeated measures analysis showed us how the items performed across supervisors and supervisory sessions over time and with different home visitors. Finally, a focus group with a subsample of supervisors who had participated in repeated measures testing helped clarify preliminary findings from the large-scale testing. Throughout this phase, the measure testing work group provided feedback on findings from each data collection activity. Next, we'll cover some more details about the SuPRS-HV, including who should use the measure, what the SuPRS-HV measures, when the measure should be completed, and why to use the measure. SuPRS-HV was developed with input from model representatives, supervisors, and home visitors from many different models. It is designed to be widely applicable across models of home visiting. It was designed for research with use on one-on-one supervision, but there is also promising secondary use for practice. The measure is designed for any supervisor, consultant, or manager who provides direct, one-on-one reflective supervision to home visitors or those working directly with families. The SuPRS-HV contains 37 items. The items are distributed across 5 subscales and a list of topics discussed. These 5 subscales document specific supervisory practices that support key elements of reflective supervision in the home visiting context. First, there's responsiveness. These practices follow the home visitor's lead, listen actively, and allow time and space for reflection while communicating warmth, sense of caring, and withholding judgment. Then there's collaborative capacity building. Practices to promote collaborative reflection, exploration, and discussion to identify and share resources and strategies for working with families. Unconditional positive regard includes practices to explore and affirm home visitor thoughts, beliefs, and emotions with supervisor self-awareness of their own thoughts, beliefs, and emotions. Then we have promoting awareness of self and others. These are practices to promote consideration of how contextual issues might impact the home visitor's work with families and family life experiences. Finally, there's supportive feedback. These practices highlight the home visitor's strengths and share solution-focused, strengths-based feedback. For example, these items make up the unconditional positive regard subscale. It asks how often, if at all, did you show interest in the home visitor's views, appreciation for their ideas, and acceptance of the home visitor as a person. It also asks how often the supervisor was authentic in their interactions, comfortable discussing sensitive topics, and awareness of how their emotions impacted the sessions. Response options then allow the supervisor to rate the frequency of each item throughout the session. To aid in describing reflective supervision in the home visiting context, the SuPRS-HV also includes 11 items to document topics discussed, including the following: the impact of a situation on the baby or child, caregiver and child interactions, strengths of the families the home visitor is working with, the needs of those families, setting and maintaining healthy boundaries with the families the home visitor works with, the impact of program requirements, logistics, or other aspects of the work environment on the home visitor's work with family, the impact of community characteristics like the availability of safe housing, employment, or affordable childcare on the home visitor's work, impacts of working with families on the home visitor's well-being, what's going well in the supervisory relationship, encouraging the home visitor to consider how work-related stressors might affect their personal life, and an opportunity to discuss the home visitor's professional development goals. Response options then describe if it was discussed at all, in some, or as a major focus of the session. The SuPRS-HV is estimated to take around 10 to 15 minutes to complete. Supervisors should complete them as soon as possible after a completed reflective supervision session. Timely completion really minimizes recall bias and can improve accuracy. This is especially important when supervisors are completing the measure following multiple reflective supervision sessions. We use the term practices here to refer to content and techniques that might be used during reflective supervision. So the measure could be used in research to document and describe reflective supervision practices in home visiting, examine variations in practices across context, setting, and samples, or examine associations with home visitor, program, and family outcomes. For use in practice, the measure could provide a menu of specific reflective supervision practices. It could support preparation for and documentation of reflective supervision sessions, or may support reflection on supervision practices and inform practice improvements. Throughout testing, home visitor supervisors shared their experiences using the SuPRS-HV. One supervisor said, "It was very thorough, but also helped me identify or think about areas that I may work on using more during supervision. I could see it being helpful in planning for further reflective supervision sessions." Another commented, "This is a very interesting measure, and the questions really allowed me to reflect on what I did or didn't touch on or do in my reflective supervision session. I enjoyed this." A third said, "The questions targeted all aspects of reflective supervision and highlighted all that is going on, intentionally and naturally, during a supervision session." We're very grateful to all the supervisors who assisted in the development and testing of the SuPRS-HV and were willing to share their experiences with us. There are also a few materials available to guide use of the measure, including a manual with technical information, a one-page fact sheet, and 2 journal manuscripts. A PDF version of SuPRS-HV will be available to download for free from the OPRE website. A technical manual with more detail about the development and use of the measure will also be available. For researchers and programs interested in programming the SuPRS-HV into a survey software, the manual will also describe how to format it following best practice recommendations for electronic surveys and optimization for mobile devices. In addition, 2 manuscripts with additional information describing methodology and results of the large-scale testing conducted with the measure will be developed. We'd like to acknowledge the funding provided by the Office of Planning, Research, and Evaluation for this project, the expertise and guidance of the federal personnel involved in the development, and work group members who provided input and expertise throughout the entire process. Thank you all for your contributions. We also had a wonderful team of partners involved throughout the development of this measure. Thank you for all of your hard work. And finally, thank you for your interest in the SuPRS-HV. Nicole Denmark, Allison West, or Marielle Spar can be contacted with any questions regarding the measure or SAS-HV project. Thank you.